Let me take you there. You're standing in a room, surrounded by voices. Some are calm, some are sharp, but one voice always finds a way to pierce right through you. They criticize when you succeed, they vanish when you need them, and somehow, every conversation leaves you feeling smaller. You tell yourself it's fine. You tell yourself you can handle it. You keep showing up, explaining, defending, reasoning, until one day you realize something powerful. You've been negotiating your peace with people who never deserved access to it in the first place. We live in a world where walking away is often misunderstood. People think silence means weakness, that restraint means fear, that turning your back means you've lost. But what if walking away, quietly, calmly, without a single word, is the most powerful thing you could ever do? See, anyone can argue, anyone can yell, clap back, or try to prove a point, but it takes strength, real strength, to look at someone who's trying to provoke you and give them nothing. No energy, no reaction, no access, because that's the kind of strength that terrifies toxic people, the kind they can't control. Maybe you've met someone like that. The kind of person who drains you, who makes you question yourself, who twists every conversation until somehow you're the problem. Maybe they're a friend, a coworker, a partner, even family. And for too long, you've tried to fix it. You've tried to fix them. You've tried to explain, to make them understand. But you can't teach self-awareness to someone committed to misunderstanding you. So what do? How do you leave with your dignity intact, without the drama, without the shouting, without the guilt? How do you walk away and still hold your head high? That's what we're going to talk about today. 4 Stoic ways, quiet, unshakable, powerful, to walk away from toxic people silently, not with anger, not with revenge, but with clarity. Because this isn't about them anymore. It's about you, reclaiming your peace, your energy, and your voice by not saying a single word. Emotional sovereignty begins with one simple truth: no one, absolutely no one, should have the power to dictate how you feel. It's a form of ownership, a declaration that your emotions belong to you, not to the moods, manipulations, or insecurities of others. And yet, most of us give that power away so easily. We hand it over every time someone provokes us, and we react. Every time we chase an apology that never comes. Every time we let someone's opinion of us rewrite how we see ourselves. Emotional sovereignty means taking that power back, quietly, completely, unapologetically. When you're around toxic people, their greatest weapon isn't what they say, it's how they make you respond. They thrive on control of your emotions, your attention, your peace. They know exactly which buttons to push to pull you into their chaos. One sarcastic comment, one guilt trip, one passive-aggressive jab, and suddenly you're defending yourself, over-explaining, reacting. You think you're standing up for yourself, but really you've stepped right into their arena, where the goal isn't truth, it's dominance. Emotional sovereignty is walking out of that arena. It's choosing not to play a game that only drains you. There's a moment, and you've probably felt it, right before you react. Someone says something that hits deep, and your body tenses. You can feel your heartbeat quicken, your mind racing to come up with the perfect response. That's the moment of power, right there. That split second where you can choose whether you'll let someone pull you into their storm, or whether you'll stay anchored in your calm. Stoicism teaches that our first reaction is instinct, but our second is choice. And it's that second one, that pause, that breath, where emotional mastery lives. Toxic people want you to lose that pause. They want you emotional, flustered, thrown off balance. Because when you react, they get validation. They feel powerful. That's why silence and composure are your greatest weapons. When you refuse to give them what they want, your emotional response, you take their power away without a word. You're not ignoring them. You're disarming them. You're saying, you don't control me. I decide what matters. Emotional sovereignty doesn't mean you stop feeling. It means you stop being run by those feelings. You can feel angry without acting out of anger. You can feel hurt without turning it into drama. You can feel disappointment without letting it dictate your worth. It's the discipline of being aware of your emotions without being consumed by them. Think of it like holding fire in your hands, strong enough to warm you, but contained enough not to burn you. There's an old saying, the one who angers you controls you. Sit with that for a moment. Every time you allow someone to provoke you, you're handing them a remote control to your emotional state. They press a button and you react. But when you develop emotional sovereignty, that remote doesn't work anymore. They can press all the buttons they want, but nothing changes because the power source is gone. You've reclaimed it. Now let's talk about how this looks in real life. Imagine you're dealing with a coworker who always finds a way to undermine you. You present an idea in a meeting and they immediately roll their eyes or make a dismissive comment. The old version of you might defend yourself, might try to prove your point, might even get heated. But the sovereign version of you, the Stoic version, simply nods, says nothing, and continues. Later, you still perform, still deliver, still rise. You don't fight for recognition. Your results speak for you. That's emotional sovereignty in action. Quiet confidence that doesn't need validation. Or maybe it's a friend who constantly drains you, always taking, never giving, and making you feel guilty when you set boundaries. Emotional sovereignty means understanding that guilt isn't always a sign you're doing something wrong. Sometimes it's a sign you're breaking a pattern of people-pleasing. You stop explaining your boundaries. You stop apologizing for saying no. You understand that peace will often cost you relationships that weren't built on respect. And you learn to be okay with that. This kind of strength takes practice. It's not built overnight. It's built in moments. The small, quiet ones where you choose composure over reaction, self-respect over approval, silence over argument. Each time you do that, you reinforce the message to yourself. I am in control of me, not them, not their behavior, not their opinions. You see, walking away from toxic people isn't just about distance, it's about discipline. It's realizing that you don't owe anyone access to your peace, and that your silence isn't weakness, it's wisdom. People will misunderstand that. Some will say you've changed. Some will say you're cold, detached, arrogant even. Let them. Their confusion is not your problem. Their discomfort is not your responsibility. Because when you stop feeding toxicity with reaction, it starves. And here's something else. Emotional sovereignty also means forgiving, not for them, but for yourself. Not because they deserve peace, but because you do. Carrying resentment ties you to the very people you're trying to walk away from. Forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. It means release. It's saying, I refuse to let what hurt me continue to live inside me. That's real power, the kind that no one can see, but everyone can feel. The Stoics believe that true freedom doesn't come from controlling others. It comes from mastering yourself. That's the essence of sovereignty. When you're grounded in who you are, when your peace doesn't depend on someone else's behavior, you become untouchable. You stop seeking closure from people who never offered honesty. You stop waiting for apologies that were never coming. You stop giving people the power to rewrite your story. Walking away silently is not about indifference. It's about awareness. You've learned the lesson, you've seen the pattern, and you've decided your peace is worth more than the chaos of trying to fix what doesn't want to be healed. You exit with grace, not resentment, with dignity, not drama, with self-control, not explanation. Because when you know who you are, silence becomes your loudest statement. So emotional sovereignty is not a wall you build to keep people out. It's a foundation you build to keep yourself standing. It's a daily decision to choose peace over reaction, clarity over chaos, and purpose over pain. And once you step into that power, you'll find that you don't need to announce your departure from toxic people. You just walk quietly, steadily, and the silence speaks for itself. Imagine standing in front of a mirror. You see yourself clearly, calm, grounded, aware. Now imagine someone standing next to you, hurling words, judgments, and projections like stones. Some of those words are sharp. Some are coated in guilt. Some are disguised as advice. You can see them hit the mirror, but none of them touch you. They bounce off, fall away, disappear. That's what the Stoic mirror is. The ability to see without absorbing, to observe without owning what isn't yours. It's not about being indifferent. It's about being immune to the chaos that isn't a reflection of your truth. Toxic people are masterful at projection. They throw their insecurities at you and disguise them as criticism. They question your worth because they're uncomfortable with their own. They accuse you of things they themselves are guilty of. And when you don't mirror back their emotions, when you refuse to absorb their negativity, it unsettles them because suddenly their reflection stops validating their illusion. The Stoic mirror teaches you to see this clearly. What people say about you is a reflection of them, not a definition of you. When someone says you've changed, what they often mean is you've stopped behaving in a way that serves me. When they say you think you're better than everyone, what they really mean is I feel threatened by your boundaries. The Stoic understands this translation instinctively. Instead of reacting to the surface insult, they see the insecurity beneath it. They look at the person not as an enemy, but as someone drowning in their own emotions, someone trying to pull others in just to feel less alone. And so rather than diving in to rescue or fight, the Stoic simply observes. They don't absorb. They don't engage. They stay still, like the mirror, reflecting reality as it is, not as the other person wishes it to be. This doesn't mean you let people walk all over you. Quite the opposite. It means you stop giving them the satisfaction of emotional control. When you mirror, you reveal calmly, silently, who they truly are, without saying a word. A toxic person thrives on drama because it keeps them from facing themselves. Your calmness becomes a confrontation they can't escape. Your silence becomes accountability they didn't ask for. They'll try to provoke you more to get a reaction that validates their story, but when you don't give it, when you remain steady, the mirror becomes unbearable to them. This kind of composure requires emotional awareness. You can't control someone's words, but you can control what you do with them. You can listen without agreeing. You can hear an insult without internalizing it. You can observe manipulation without reacting to it. When you see from the Stoic mirror, you understand that most people speak from pain, not truth. Their words are more about their inner battles than your behavior. You begin to notice patterns. People who constantly complain, criticize, or compete are usually fighting invisible wars within themselves. Once you see that, you stop taking it personally. Think about it. How much of your energy have you wasted trying to correct someone's version of you that only exists in their mind? You argue, you explain, you defend, but no amount of proof will convince a person who's already decided to misunderstand you. The Stoic mirror frees you from that trap. You no longer need to be understood by everyone. You no longer need to fix every false perception. You understand that truth doesn't require approval, it just is. Picture yourself in a tense conversation, maybe with a family member who always finds fault, or a partner who twists your words. They say something meant to sting. Instead of reacting, you pause. You breathe. You look at them, not with anger, but with quiet clarity. You realize this isn't about me. And in that moment, you disconnect from their chaos. You become an observer instead of a participant. That's the Stoic mirror in action. Awareness without absorption. The world is full of noise. Opinions, judgments, projections. But your peace depends on your ability to filter what deserves entry into your inner world. Every time you absorb someone's negativity, you let them plant seeds of doubt in your mind. Soon, you start questioning yourself, replaying conversations, defending actions that never needed defense. But when you become the mirror, their words bounce off the surface. They no longer take root. You see them for what they are, reflections of someone else's pain, and you let them pass. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If anyone can refute me, show me I'm making a mistake, I will gladly change, for I seek the truth, which never harmed anyone." That's the essence of the Stoic mirror. The humility to accept truth and the strength to reject projection. You remain open to growth, but closed to poison. You welcome constructive criticism, but walk away from manipulation. You're not fragile, you're discerning. And here's the beautiful part. When you stop absorbing, you also stop reacting. You start responding intentionally, calmly, from strength. You begin to see patterns in behavior and motives that were invisible before. People reveal themselves quickly when you stop feeding them your reactions. You'll notice who respects your calm and who resents it. You'll see who can handle boundaries and who crumbles without control. It's not your job to fix them. Their only job is to remain the mirror, honest, calm, and clear. This practice doesn't just protect your peace. It transforms it. You become less judgmental, more observant. You start recognizing your own projections too. The times you react out of fear, ego, or insecurity. The mirror works both ways. It teaches empathy as much as strength. You start asking, is this truly about them, or am I projecting something of my own? That level of self-awareness is what separates strength from pride, calm from suppression, wisdom from apathy. In a world obsessed with reacting, posting, clapping back, proving points, being still is revolutionary. The Stoic mirror gives you that revolution quietly. You no longer rush to defend yourself because you know your truth doesn't depend on someone else's understanding. You no longer seek validation from chaos because you've learned peace feels better than being right. You don't mirror their anger, you reflect your composure. You don't absorb their pain, you reflect understanding without surrendering your boundaries. Over time, you'll notice something remarkable. Toxic people start losing interest in you. Not because you've done anything dramatic, but because your calm exposes their noise. Your silence reveals their desperation for control. They can't feed off your reactions anymore. And so they drift away, searching for another mirror that will reflect their illusions back to them. Let them. Your job isn't to hold up their reflection. It's to protect your own. So the Stoic mirror is not just a mindset, it's a way of seeing the world with clarity and compassion. You see the pain in others without letting it become your own. You see manipulation for what it is, a sign of weakness, not power. You see projection as an invitation to observe, not to argue. You see yourself finally as the steady reflection of truth that cannot be distorted by noise. And in that stillness, you find peace. Unshakable, silent, sovereign peace. Detachment is not about not caring. It's about caring differently, deliberately, intelligently, and without losing yourself in the process. It's the art of holding on to your values while letting go of what you can't control. It's quiet power, not coldness. Choosing your inner peace over constant emotional turbulence. In a world where people equate loud reaction with strength, detachment is the calm rebellion that says, I refuse to let chaos dictate my peace. Toxic people often test that peace. They thrive on reaction, on seeing you flinch, on knowing they can still pull you into their emotional orbit. The more you engage, the more they tighten the rope. But the moment you detach, truly detach, the rope slips through their fingers. They can no longer provoke you because you've realized something profound. Not every battle is worth your energy, not every conversation deserves your voice, and not every connection deserves continuation. Detachment begins internally, long before you walk away. It's a shift in perspective, an inner exit before you stop speaking to someone. You stop investing emotionally. Before you move physically, you reclaim your mental space. It's not avoidance, it's awareness. You start to see the patterns. The constant manipulation, the guilt trips, the subtle digs. And instead of fighting it, you observe it. You let it reveal itself. You stop expecting change from people who show no effort to grow. You release the fantasy of who they could be and accept the truth of who they are. That acceptance, quiet, grounded, and often painful, is the beginning of real detachment. There's this misconception that detachment means shutting down your emotions, but that's not true. Detachment doesn't mean you stop feeling. It means you stop allowing your feelings to rule your decisions. It means you stop chasing validation from people who use your empathy as leverage. You stop explaining your worth to people committed to misunderstanding it. You stop confusing loyalty with self-sacrifice. Detachment is emotional discipline, knowing when to step back, when to breathe, when to choose silence instead of proving a point that doesn't matter. Think about how many times you've replayed a toxic conversation in your head, rewriting what you should have said, what you could have done differently. That's emotional attachment. Your mind's still trying to resolve something that was never built on mutual respect in the first place. Attachment interrupts that loop. It says, no, we're done explaining ourselves in places that don't value understanding. You stop fighting for closure and start creating your own. You stop waiting for peace and start becoming it. The Stoics taught that the root of suffering is attachment to outcomes, to opinions, to illusions. Detachment is not indifference. It's clarity. It's seeing things as they are, not as you wish them to be. When you detach, you stop demanding that people act according to your expectations. You stop trying to make unfair situations fair. You stop needing everyone to like or understand you. And in that release, you discover something extraordinary: freedom. There's a deep kind of confidence that grows when you no longer depend on external validation. It's not arrogance, it's alignment. You're no longer swayed by approval or rejection. When someone criticizes you, you don't crumble. When they praise you, you don't inflate. You take both with the same calmness because your worth no longer fluctuates with their opinion. That's the beauty of detachment. It gives you stability in a world built on emotional volatility. Detachment also requires boundaries, not walls, but gates. Boundaries say, I decide who and what enters my mental and emotional space. And you learn to enforce them not with anger, but with quiet certainty. You don't need to explain why someone's behavior is unacceptable. You don't need to announce your distance. You just create it. People who respect you will understand. Those who don't will test it. And that's when detachment becomes your strength. Because instead of reacting, you remain consistent. You don't chase after those who leave, and you don't resent those who stay. You simply continue walking your path with peace as your compass. One of the hardest lessons in detachment is realizing that you can love people deeply and still walk away from them. You can wish someone well and still decide they can't have access to you. You can care, but from a distance that protects your peace. Love doesn't mean tolerance for toxicity. Compassion doesn't mean submission. Detachment allows you to love without losing yourself, to give without being drained, to forgive without reopening wounds. In practice, detachment looks like small, quiet choices. It's not responding to the text that reopens old wounds. It's ending the conversation when it turns manipulative. It's noticing when you're being baited into defending yourself and choosing silence instead. It's walking out of the argument halfway through because you realize peace is more valuable than being right. It's saying, no, I'm not doing this anymore, and standing firm even when guilt comes knocking. Detachment looks like strength on the outside, but it's really healing on the inside. You'll notice that when you start detaching, people react in two ways. Some will respect it. They'll adjust. They'll honor your boundaries. Others will fight it. They'll accuse you of being distant, selfish, or cold. But what they're really saying is, you're no longer giving me the reaction I depend on. And that's fine. Let them misunderstand. Detachment isn't for their comfort. It's for your balance. You can't control their response, but you can control your peace. With time, you'll start feeling lighter. You'll stop waking up with that tightness in your chest that comes from constant emotional chaos. You'll stop feeling the need to explain why you're protecting your energy. You'll stop being addicted to drama disguised as connection. That's when you'll realize that detachment isn't about losing people. It's about losing the parts of yourself that tolerated less than you deserved. To live detached is to live free. You no longer carry other people's moods on your shoulders. You no longer confuse their storms for your responsibility. You understand that people can only meet you at the level of their own awareness, and you stop trying to drag them higher. You start accepting that not everyone is meant to walk with you. And that's okay, The journey is lighter when you stop carrying what was never yours to bear. The discipline of detachment doesn't mean you isolate yourself. It means you prioritize your inner world so deeply that external chaos can't touch it. You find peace not in control, but in surrender. The kind of surrender that says, I trust myself enough to let go. You stop trying to fix what's unfixable. You stop chasing closure in places that only reopen wounds. You stop reacting to every disturbance and start choosing stillness instead. And in that stillness, something beautiful happens. You become unshakable. People will come and go. Opinions will rise and fall. Situations will shift. But you remain steady, not numb, not detached from life, but deeply connected to your own truth. That's what real detachment feels like. It's not cold. It's clear. It's not distance. It's direction.